This is the OAA's training meeting with Dibby Bartlett. It is partnering, how to partner with your partners. And so I'm going to turn this meeting over to you, Dibby. Thank you very much for coming tonight. We very much appreciate you.
Well, really, really good to have you all here. So I'll just give you a little bit of a bio of me. And I'm the past president of the Opticians Association of America, and also past president of the Opticians Association of Massachusetts. And I did a lot of work with partnering with OAA, some with OAM, and now I'm back doing that with OAM Massachusetts. But I did a lot with OAA, and I was a optician in an optical shop for 32 years, and then I was a rep for 10 years, and then a COO of an eyewear company for 5 years, and now I'm doing some consulting. But the reason that I am doing this because I did have kind of a unique, probably similar to Crystal, a unique perspective, being both within the executive committee making decisions, also as a retail optician, and going to CEs looking for certain things, and also as a corporate partner representative, as a rep, and also a partner representing a whole company. So it did give me a kind of a unique perspective on partnering. So I'm just going to go right into this, if that's okay. And I'll stop and ask questions. I'm not going to show you the PowerPoint because it's boring, and I think it's better that we actually kind of can see each other, if that's okay. So let me just start by saying, this is basically about how to be the best possible partner you can be. Hopefully, I'm by no means an expert. I've just had experience, that's all. So I think that we'll kind of toss some ideas out to each other, and hopefully be able to get some things to take back to our state associations. So first and foremost, I mean, one of the great things, state associations really have a unique opportunity to create partnerships with optical vendors and others in the optical industry. And, as I've had many years of experience, I think that, I've been able to see all sorts of different opportunities that our state associations have. So the thing is that, your partnership, why do we do it? It's because it can give you some valuable connections and also some really important funds for your state association and future funds, for down the road, so that you're not constantly just relying on membership for your funds. And whenever I talk about this, I always say to people, they wonder, when I'm speaking to either the consumer or to people that aren't associated with state associations, I always say, now remember, we're not making money to go out and buy a car. We're not making money. None of us, we're all volunteers. None of us are putting it in our pocket. We're doing this to be able to put it back into state associations to reinvest into the optician. That's why state associations try to make money. There's no greed here or anything else. And that's a disclaimer I don't have to give to you, but I do always give that disclaimer when I talk to opticians. Let's see. So, I think that the one of the things to remember is that create the best partnerships. Your partners have to have a really healthy return on investment. And I think that we have a unique opportunity to be able to create really interesting, different types of partnerships. So first thing I'm going to tell you is, in order to be able to start partnership, to start the thought process within your state association, you really have to think like a vendor. Now, has anybody here ever been a vendor besides Crystal? Crystal, do you do any shows? Do you do any state association meetings?
We haven't had, well, The state association, it literally started up 2 months ago. So
Okay.
we
So no
haven't had
opportunity
any
yet.
show. Yeah, we're still in the works.
Okay. So, it's like I said, it's really important to think like a vendor. And so the first thing that we're doing is trying to think, so what does a vendor want? So let's say I was the COO of Todd Rogers Eyewear for 5 years. So if I make an agreement with Opticians Association of Colorado to come in and I have a table and so forth, what am I looking for? What is it that I want? You guys, all state associations have a really unique and and positive opportunity, because you can give me access to opticians. You can give me access to buyers. So that is basically that's your hook. That's the thing that you have that vendors want. They want to be able to reach those opticians. The only options that they have is they either are knocking on a door, like we all do and I did for 10 years, or you are able to go to a show and have people, or a continuing education credit seminar, and have people come to you. So we really want to have, I'm speaking as a vendor now, I want to be able to get access to those opticians. Who are they? Are they interested? Are they buyers? Because it is, of course, about money, and we can't ignore that. So, what are they going to be looking for? So if they have an opportunity, let's say you have a program and your partnership includes a table at your event, they're going to want to know, is this going to work for me? How many people will be there? If you've got 10 people coming, and maybe it's not so worth it. If you have 10 people and you're charging only $25, then maybe it is worth it. So always the vendor is going to be thinking, does this work for me? Is it expensive? And there's all different ways that you can charge for your partnership, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Some people do across the board. Some state associations do the same amount for all vendors. Some do tiered. Opticians Association of America always did tiered, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, you keep going up. Sometimes that works for state associations, sometimes that doesn't work for state associations. But the other thing that the vendor is going to look at is, my return on investment. Will I actually make some money? Will I make money if I am going to this event, if I am partnering with the state association? So those are the things always. And what I try to get people to think about is to not just always have your hand out for vendors to say, well, they make tons of money, they can always afford it. Because ultimately the well will run dry at some point if you have that thought process. So somehow we need to make it as good as we possibly can for the vendors. We may need to make it good, easy, attractive, bringing them in for interesting, different types of opportunities. It has to be worth it to them to do it, not only from corporate, but also for the rep who's going to give up their day or 2 days, depending upon what your credit seminars look like. They're going to give up that time. So we have to make sure that it's going to be worth it. One of the things that was very eye-opening to me when I became a sales rep was the whole money thing. So I had been on the retail side for 32 years. I can remember people coming in. I remember this one woman who's a really good friend of mine coming in. She was a Polo rep at the time, back when Polo was big. And she came in and she brought new frames. And I knew we couldn't buy that day. I was all set. I was like, we're not buying, we don't have any money. But I said, oh, so, I took some frames down that we weren't happy with. And exchanged those. I think we did 10 for 10. So who knows how much money she made that day. Heather, you got your hand up.
Yeah, can we actually, so you actually asked a question, and I would love to hear everyone else's response on what do we think vendors want from us? Because like you mentioned too, so ROI, I've been really exposed this last year that a lot of vendors just want their name out there, right? They want to show that they support, and it seems like a lot more vendors really are kind of just there also just for those networks, kind of like you were talking about in the beginning. And even for like marketing purposes, like, do you think that, you know, you didn't kind of mention anything about like you posting advertisements, being on social media for these people, right? Because of course our sponsorships are going to have like somewhere to be on our website or flyers or something like that too. Do you
We
feel
will
like
get
how
to that later? Yep.
yeah, like how important do you think what these vendors want? Do you know, do you think that anyone else desires anything else being a vendor?
I think that vendors are going to want vendors want everybody. The whole purpose of this is what I call, when I was teaching at the opticianry school, I taught my students, this is what we call grocery money. It's profit. They're there to make money. Who's kidding who? They love us. We love them. But ultimately, it is about them making money. And just like it is for us going to work. So the vendors need to make money. Now, maybe they're not going to make it right at that day. Maybe they want exposure. Maybe they want, maybe they want to get their name out. Maybe they want introductions. But all of that ends up meaning that they want to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. Lewis.
So I have really great relationships with all my sales reps, and what they asked me as we were organizing our show for the first time in July, they wanted to know if there were just really going to be buyers there. They did not want, they said, cautionary tale, Lewis, if there's a bunch of opticians from the Walmarts and the Targets of the world, like it's not going to do us any good. And I don't want to go to a show that's like that. And like you said, they want to make money. They want to make an extra account. Doesn't have to be a lot. One new account can make up for the expense that they get. But my impression, I mean, my reps are pretty frank with me and I'm pretty frank with them. They said, we're here to make money. If I can open one new account, sell 10 more frames somewhere else, it'll be fine. And, and they're banking on long-term relationships too. Like, they want to get in the door. The show gives them an avenue into those doors. And hopefully their product sells through and they can make lots more money off of that. They view it as an investment.
Of course. And I think all good sales reps are going to treat any relationship that they have, any event that they have that's worthwhile, as an investment in the future. And there's, as we said, there's nothing wrong with somebody wanting to make money. And remember, the sales rep who is, if they're the person working the show, often, they've already worked a regular day. They've worked the whole week. And this is extra. If it's Saturday, Sunday, or if it's evening, this is extra. The other thing that I was very surprised to find out, oh, by the way, that the answer that we talked about before, which was how much does somebody make? How much does the sales rep make if they exchange 10 frames and they bring in 10 frames and you return 10 frames? And of course the answer is they don't make a penny. Not only do they not make a penny, they make less than that because they've paid for the gas, they've paid for that, and generally most reps are 1099s. So, that they're taking that money out of their pocket to come to see the buyers. And if the buyer doesn't buy, and it's a gamble, and it's not always boo-hoo for the rep, but it is something that it's important for us to understand as state association committees who are working with this, because I have found that there's been a misconception that there's this gobs of money that they just go in the back room and say, okay, here's the, $500 for the year for a table, and yes, and I'll sponsor lunch. And by the way, here's 3 raffle sunglasses. You know, I worked for Safalo and Dorigo Rem, and every time that we did a show, I paid for the table. That's generally how it worked. So if there's 5 reps in the area, every one of those reps, that money for that sponsorship comes out of them in their commission at the end of the month or whatever. If there's something that comes out of our bag, we pay for that. You know, they audit the bag and then you pay for it. Granted, you're paying wholesale price, but and like I said, the only reason I say that is just that we have a really good, strong understanding of what we're asking from our reps, to make sure that things are worthwhile for them. So because they're looking to make money, they're looking to be able to have some kind of relationship with us. They're looking to be able to meet people, to, as Louis said, you know, hopefully someone is going to buy something. And if they're not going to buy something there, then they're looking for some kind, maybe an appointment, you know, maybe an introduction, maybe a name that they could follow up with. So all of that is something that we need to keep in the back of our head when we are approaching our partners or our vendors to become partners. That it isn't just, you know, I speak especially with the big 3, you know, Luxottica. Well, what was the big 3? Safalo and down. We assume that it's not going to cost the rep anything, and generally that's not true. So understanding what it costs for them, I think, is really important. So what can you offer? So let's say that you are starting to develop a partnership program within your state association. What do you have that they need? So because this is sales, this is strictly sales. You're trying to get them to purchase a partnership, and you've got to make sure that partnership is attractive. So what kind of things would work for them? Well, we know a table at a function. Everybody here does CE events, right? And so a table at your CE event, that is definitely something that many of the vendors are looking for, because it gives them access to those opticians. Advertising at a function, you know, that's something you can do. It's something, Louis, you talked about a little bit, and just, you know, or I think it was you that advertising before the function, this person is going to be here, not only the company, but the rep. If you can put the rep down, that's even better, because the rep needs to have, and a picture of the rep, even better, because as the rep goes door to door, knock, knock, knock. Hi, oh, wait a minute. I think I saw your picture of something. There was some advertisement. So they're not, so they're somewhat familiar to people. Listing as a partner on a website with a link. Do all of you have websites yet? Yes. Okay. So your website, yeah, your website and I think we talked last time we were together, we talked about newsletter. Website and your newsletter are incredibly great vehicles to be able for you to sell advertising for your partnerships. If your website's not good, spend the money and get a better one, because that is the number one thing that people are looking at with your organization. So if your website stinks, if it's outdated, if you have something in there from 2017, and I promise you, I look at them all every month for OAA. I go through every state association to try to pull information for our calendars. And some have stuff on there that from 2017. I'm like, no, that's bad. That says we're dead. Nobody cares. They don't think you exist anymore. So advertising.
Hey, you're not talking about me, are you?
No, I'm not. I don't know. Am I? Am I, Wes? So listing.
I hope not. I really hope not.
If you can put their partner logo on your website, you know, thank you for our vendors partner logo. Put a link on that logo that takes them right to their to their website. That's a huge piece. Advertising in a newsletter. We talked about this last time for anybody who was here. You have a regular newsletter, and if you don't, start one. Even if you only say one thing a month, start your newsletter, because again, it's valuable real estate, and it's another way for you to sell a partnership for your state association. Hey, guess what? If you buy a partnership with us, you get, we're going to put 4 of your advertisements in there once a year. And not only that, we're going to live interview your reps. You have only, 1 rep. If you have 3, we'll live interview all of them. Hey, what do you like to do? What's your favorite frame? What's your territory? They will eat that up, because again, face recognition, recognition of the company. People start to not say, oh, there's somebody I don't know knocking at my door. Oh, there's that person I saw that interview with on, the Opticians Association of Colorado. So they must be a good person. All of that is valuable. Free CEs to a vendor. Now, to us, it's probably a given, but when you write down something that they're getting, it becomes more valuable. Anything, really racking your brain about what you're probably giving away free. But it's really not free, because you're probably paying for that CE. And if you're allowing them to bring 1 or 2 people in, that's part of the value. Make sure that that's listed on your offering for your vendors. Free lunch for the vendor. Again, sounds dumb, but if you have a list of one thing, a table at a function, or if you're offering to have a partnership with a vendor and you have 20 things, they're going to start to pay more attention to the 20 things, even if it's something that doesn't seem big. And again, I think that the vendors don't necessarily have a full understanding of what partnerships are good and what are not, and how they're different. So everything that you can add, more is always going to be better. Even if it seems benign, even if it seems like it would have been a giveaway, make sure you write it down. Social media advertising per year. If you don't have a dedicated social media person yet, make sure you do. And it doesn't have to be that you hire somebody. It can be, your nephew, or, your whatever, the student on your board, but find somebody who gets what it's supposed to be, and then offer to put in your social media advertisements. So now this vendor, now they get a table, they get advertising for the function. Again, their name is flashed. They're listed on my website with a link. They get 3 advertisements in our newsletter per year. We're going to interview their rep for the newsletter once a year, and they get free CEs for at least 1 person. They get free lunch when they come, and they get maybe 3 social media advertisements additionally. It's really starting to sound like they get a lot. So I think that, if you start to see, the more you offer, the more return on investment they get, and the more it looks like they get more return on investment. So some of the things that we can do is you really have an opportunity also to get creative. So Louis, you were talking about people wanting it to be a buying opportunity for them, right? And that's absolutely true. When people come to our Massachusetts, I think at our heyday, we had 43 corporate partners. So when we had a conference, we would have to fit 43 tables in there. But that was good. We liked being able to have that. So, but one of the things that we would always say to people is like, well, you're probably not going to buy anything, because there really isn't an opportunity for someone to sit down, because they're in the hallway. We give maybe 45 minutes while that people are having a coffee hour in between two classes. So there really isn't time to sit down and look at trays. So, one of the things that we've been starting to think about recently is, why not? Why not create a time period before or after your credit seminar that is a buying show? Why not, start advertising? One of the things that you do is you have access to opticians, and I'm assuming you have advertising power because you have emails. I'm assuming you have emails for your contact information. So you have really good advertising power. If they're not buying there, they're buying in their office, and we all know that's fine, but it's really hard to pull time aside to have a buying time. So what if you created the end of the day of your show to have it be a buying show? Yes, Lewis.
Yeah, and some of the feedback I've gotten from the reps, in addition to, like, they want it to be a buying show, but they also want to engage with the attendees, right? Like, so even maybe they don't necessarily buy, but they want to have that FaceTime with people so they can talk to them, talk about the product, talk about themselves and their experience. And I've seen this, in the health and wellness shows that we do around town. People just come and get their check, check off your name and say, so they can get entered into the drawing and that sort of thing. So I think part of the challenge is, how do you get attendees to engage with the vendors that are coming to your show, right? Like that, because they don't want to, like, okay, well, I'm here. It's like, well, I can't do anything for you. Sign the card anyway. It's like, all right,
Right. Yep.
and so it's a fine line. So you
It
got to
is a fine line. Yep.
find that spot where they can do that. And I really like the idea of making a time for the attendees to engage the vendors, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really critical.
So I think that, both Michigan and Massachusetts did something different this past time. Michigan had something called Where's Waldo? And the two of their executives dressed up like Waldo. And then they took sticky googly eyes. You guys all know what those are, those sticky little eyes. And they put them, because they were concerned about this very same thing, Lewis. They really didn't want to just have a raffle where it said, just sign my card, and nobody's even looking at the product. And I can just say, as being on the vendor side, being on both sides, people don't want to start looking at product because they're going to want me to buy it, and then I have to hear the whole spiel. And so there's that awkward feeling when you're going by the table. So what Michigan did is they took maybe 3 or 4 on each table, and they hid them within the product, and people had to go and actually look at the product and try to find them. And then I can't remember what they said, where they found it or whatever. And then once they did all that, they were entered into a big drawing, and it was maybe $250 or something like that. And the feedback, I actually talked to them right afterwards. The feedback was very positive. The vendor said, one said, I actually got 2 new appointments because nobody had ever really taken the time to look at my product. So that's one thing that we can do. The other thing is Massachusetts this past week, we were talking about this very same thing. We had our credit seminar on Sunday. So Blair Wong, I can't remember specifically exactly how he did it, but basically he asked every vendor to find the information of the person and we advertised this in the very beginning, that this was something that we were doing. Any optician that came by that was exceptionally engaging, and then they put those names into a raffle, and at the end of the day, they asked 10 people who were pulled out of that to come up, and they all got a $50 bill, which people are like, Oh, $50 bill. Of course, it did cost the state association something, but it did make people think, more about engagement. So do any of you have 2-day events yet? Is it strictly 1 day? And so if you have a 2-day event, you could do the buying piece the night before with, time around a bar or time around a dinner, something like that. But I think that, if you did it early enough, you could go to your vendors, and it might be a really good opportunity to be able to get new corporate partners. If you said, we're going to have a buying show, and we would like you to, every vendor, to be able to bring your best deal to the show. And so everybody's going to have a table, but they're also going to maybe have a second table so that somebody can actually sit down, because we all know what it's like to sit and buy flipping frames and so forth. So you almost would need 2 people there, and or at least some time. So and you probably would want to have that maybe for 3 hours. You could have music, you could have karaoke going on at the same time. You could have a dinner after that. But I think that opticians buyers would be interested knowing that they were going to go and get a good deal. And I think that vendors would be interested because they would know that people are coming specifically to buy frames. I've with Safalo and Todd Rogers Eyewear and Dorigo Rem, I've worked many vision expos, and we always did well, especially the big company Safalo. We always did very well. However, we never did as well as the time that I worked a Vision Source show. Do any of you work for Vision Source docs? Okay, so they buy like drunken sailors when they go to these things. I mean, it was unbelievable. There was a line back up, like, yep, give me that, give me that, give me that. Because it was advertised as a buyer's show. They came in, they were ready to buy, they had their pocketbook out, and they were going to buy. We sold more for Safalo on one afternoon than all 3 days that we did at Vision Expo. And it just happened to be a Boston show. So I do think that there is something, if you make that possible, I think it could be very attractive to the vendor. So also I think that create a selling show, we talked about that as far as getting creative, the Where's Waldo, the giving away the $50, but anything that you can do that's different for your corporate partners, I think is great. All of those things that we listed before are generic things, but you may have a special time coming up that, let's say, your association is going to do a dining in the dark, or your association is going to do a CE, and there's going to be some sort of theme. You might be able to engage certain vendors or offer to all of them, say, listen, for this dining in the dark event, we're going to have a special dessert. Would anybody be interested in being the sponsor of that dessert? And you can get up and talk for 15 minutes, something like that. So all of those things, I think that if you don't keep it cut and dry, if you're always looking to be more creative, you're going to have a better opportunity of getting more corporate partners. So any questions so far? So how do you sell your partnership? Well, the first thing that I would tell you is that you want to have a contact list. Actually, before we do that, Donna, is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yes, you can share your screen, but Daniel has a question.
Oh, sure. Yes, Daniel.
I did have a question about doing the buyer's event. I tried a little bit to organize a buying event once, and I had a number of reps who were interested in the idea, and we talked about how to do it. And ultimately, nobody really was interested. Because it would be an after hours event. We were going to have a party and rent a space at a hotel and set up a buying thing there. Because I personally thought that was cool, because I've gone out for beers or something and done buying with reps after hours, and I'm like, that's way better than an office. I'd much
And
rather do that.
Throw alcohol in, everybody.
I bet other buyers would like that too. And a lot of the reps, they went to their buyers and they said, nah, they're not really interested. And ultimately, they said they weren't really interested. It seemed like the buyers weren't interested in that kind of event. And
Oh, the
I was
buyers.
kind of wondering how to motivate buyers other than, you know, a show special. Is there some other way to motivate buyers to come to these events? People
Well,
motivated to buy, not to just looky-loo at frames.
Louis, did you have another question you want to answer? Did you
No,
have
I was gonna dovetail into Daniel. You know, I just cut to the chase and drink in the office when I buy frames, you know, and you know, it works. But you know, if I'm not
gonna try
doing that, yeah, do that while helping customers. It really throws them for a loop. But it's true, I do it sometimes. But the other thing is, I don't know, to promote the event, were there special discounts offered or anything, Daniel? I mean, like, it seems like you got to get somebody enticed, and
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know.
We were going to do specials and things like that. The thing that I worried about, though, is, I mean, I was concerned about the reps' ROI. I wanted to make sure, because
Yeah.
what I was organizing was that each of the reps would have to throw in $500 as a
Right.
pool to fund this event. So they would have to have some guaranteed
Right.
recouping of that. So I wanted to make it, so I didn't want to just make it a show where people can come look at frames, they can have dinner, they can have drinks and stuff like that, and then they just didn't have a good time and then they go home. I wanted to make sure that everybody who comes to that is a motivated buyer and is coming with money in pocket to buy. So we were toying about having, you know, selling tickets to the event, like it's $100 buy-in to come to the event, but that $100 buys you a $200 voucher for a vendor of your choice or something like that.
Good idea.
Some sort of things, just to make sure that everyone who comes in is there to buy. They have to buy something because they've already bought in to begin with. And I couldn't bring it together, but I'm just wondering what kind, if anybody has experience with some sort of incentives here to the buyers to get opticians or the buyers to. I would ideally love a buyer, like a manager, to come with no interest in CE, no interest in socializing. They just want to come there to buy.
Right.
And how do I motivate that?
Well, I think if you offer a lot of things. So Heather just said maybe we should offer discounted lunch for buyers from the office who aren't interested in CEs during annual convention. Yeah. So
I'm
also,
already thinking about adding a buyer's event to our annual convention, just upon what we've talked about right now. Try that.
I think, you know, for me, I would want, if I was going to be buying, and if I was a buyer in a shop and I had to get CEs, I'd want to do it all at one event. I want to go. This is why people go to Vision Expo. People go to Vision Expo because they can buy, they can have fun in New York or Vegas. They can, you know, they can get their CEs, and they can see new products. So it's a big bang for their buck. And I don't see why we can't do similar things in our state associations. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. What sparked this whole idea was we've had in Massachusetts, we have a group it's an independent group that's starting to put on these buyer shows, and which we thought was okay, that's great. And then they started offering education, like, okay, so you know, maybe we need to explore doing what they're doing also, because, you know, somebody said to me, oh, I think they had 50 vendors, and it was all pretty much independent vendors and independent opticians. But if that's more the type of thing that people are looking for, you know, I know as a sales rep, it's really hard to carve out. It's hard. It was always hard for me as a buyer to carve out the time when a sales rep came in, because if you have 3 people waiting, it sort of takes the fun out of it, especially if you're the only person in the office, of being able to see all the new product. So, and I think post-COVID, it has become even worse. We're all so busy to be able to carve out, 45 minutes or 40 minutes to sit with our rep, may not happen. But this is concerted time with them where there isn't somebody waiting to pick up their glasses or have a lens change or anything like that, that you can really concentrate on them. So, so I don't know, I'll keep you posted, because I think that we're considering doing it in November. And we're gonna have a special name for it, and we're gonna do it in conjunction with an evening in Massachusetts, a dinner, and then this, and then the next day is all CEs for the whole day. So it'll be interesting to see. So I just wanted to show you quickly what kind of paperwork we basically have for OAA.
Maybe one
So-
more, you have one more comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead. Yes.
I was
Chris?
just going to answer more with Daniel. So Cherry Optical used to do a big event in Green Bay. They discontinued doing that just shortly before COVID. But one thing that they did to help motivate buyers was for every purchase you made, you got rebates from Cherry. They also did raffles, so extra raffles beyond just they did something similar to the Finding Waldo, but if you purchased, basically the more things you did with a rep, the more times your name went into a raffle, and you also got rebates towards services with Cherry Optical. So, and just a couple more ideas to answer your original question. I realize with a association, the rebates doesn't quite fit like it did with Cherry, but it can kind of figure something out similar.
Another thing I've seen shops do, optical shops, and I've also seen state associations do, is where they do a big raffle, a raffle for like a really nice weekend away. So I've seen optical shops do it for referrals. So every time you gave a referral, your name would go into this, and then they would maybe quarterly choose one person, but it would be like, maybe a 2-night stay at a really nice hotel, including dinner. And people got really motivated. And when you think, if you're getting, and the new referral had to have purchased something. So it wasn't just I referred this person. They actually have to come and purchase something. But once that's done, but I think that might even be able to work as for people coming in and, for a raffle. So the raffle, I think, cash is always good, but it's nice to have something that's really curated and nice, a nice weekend away, a night with a nice dinner and so forth. Yes, Donna.
We have Heather weighing in. Maybe we should offer a discounted lunch for buyers from the office who are interested in CEs during annual conventions. Thank you very much. I appreciate that comment, Heather. One thing Washington used to always do is we always bought lunches for all of my reps. I never had them come that they didn't get lunch. And we didn't do something to encourage our people to go over and engage with the vendor. We always wanted the vendor to feel important. And on several occasions on the smaller conventions, I even let the vendor get up and speak during the lunch hour and make a little announcement, like 5 or 10 minutes. And that was worth its weight in gold, because then they could actually introduce themselves and make a presentation to everybody there. So there's a lot of opportunity for state associations, and that's why these meetings are so engaging, so you guys can share and hear different ideas.
There's
Thanks,
no
Dibby.
reason why state associations can't be mini vision expos and mini vision source. if we do things right, we could be, one of the things that we always say is, when you get your CEs from us, when you come to our events, we're just putting the money right back into you. So where else can you say that, if you're getting it online, are those people reinvesting in you? No. I mean, that's why we're doing this, is so that we can reinvest in our profession and our state. And we hammer that in as much as we possibly can in Massachusetts, so people understand that, and at every live event say, please get your CEs here, because, you can go to wherever like Las Vegas or something like that. You can go to something like that, and is the money going to come back to you? If the money's not going to come back to you, then don't do it, especially with our profession where we still need so much. So I am just going to share for a second here, and let's see. I think I'll start with this. So this is, let's see, can you all see this reasonably well? So this is the OAA's partnership opportunities. So when I would sit down with somebody and say, okay, what are you interested in? Or somebody got in contact with me and said, okay, we would like to become a partner. I had this form all set, and we'd have either a Zoom, usually a Zoom, and I would go through all of these with them. These are your opportunities. Obviously, this is a lot more money than they're going to be spending at a state association, but it gives you some idea of some of the things here that are offered. And also the fact that it's written down on a form with your logo really makes it a lot more sophisticated. And I think that it's impressive to people. And it's something that when somebody is looking to make a decision whether to become a corporate partner, they can take this back to their manager and say, hey, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to do this level, if you're going to do levels, or this, look at everything that we get here. And they think that that's it really does help, rather than something written down on a piece of paper, oh, $500 and we get this, 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 and this. So it's just a little bit more efficient.
Wait, do you have a breakdown of what some of these mean?
Yes, so
Okay.
And Dibby, would you share that with me, and I'll share it with everybody so that they can use it as a model.
That would be great.
And I also want to show you, so that's the short form that shows everything that we've got. And I've got to just double check and make sure that OAA doesn't mind us sharing it, but I don't think they will. So then this is what a full partnership would look like. I'm going to share again. And sorry, there we go. So then I would have another sheet that covers just the full what they would get. So the short form is something I can give them that has a grid or an Excel, basically, that lists everything that you can get under every level. And like I said, not everybody does every level, but if there's only one level, then you would just need a sheet like this. And this would say what the partnership is. Let's say it's $500, and you get this, and you get this, and these things are, and again, you're going to write down every possible thing. If somebody gets this free CE, great. If they get 2 free CEs for that rep, because often reps are looking for CEs as well, that's great too. Do they get lunch? Great, write it down. Every single possible thing that you can get, because doesn't this look impressive? If you have something that is listed out here, you're much more apt to get the partners to pay attention. And then lastly, find the next one here. This is an agreement. And you want to have something like that so that you know, oops, that's wrong. Okay, so lastly, this is an agreement, and this just basically says that I'm gonna be at this level, send invoice to, contact, all this information, which is really important to get, especially when they promise they're gonna pay and they don't. It's really important you get, you know, all of this, and then you have a person that you can talk to. Very often, the rep is not the person who's going to be getting the money to you. The rep is just the person that's going to introduce you to the person who is going to write the check. And sometimes that can take a long time. So the more formal and official that your partnership looks, the more possibilities you're going to have to actually get that taken care of, get somebody to invest in your state association. So anything like that, I'll try to, what I might do, let me play around. Maybe I can just do some generic forms that you could put your logo on and put, you know, just sort of fill in so that you can have actually your own forms. You wouldn't have to even redo that. But, you know, I have found dealing with many of the OAA vendors that they found that was really helpful. So let's say now you have those forms. How do you actually sell your partnership? Well, you're going to have a contact list, and your contact list, you know, is, again, really, it's your reps. You know, you can send, and we find this all the time with OAA and Massachusetts, that if you're trying to send something to SRO Exotica, it's really hard to figure out who it is that's going to write the check. But if you go through your rep, and the rep is the person who really wants to be able to be at your conferences, then they're going to be more motivated. They're the people that are going to know where that money comes from and how to get it there. So you need to get, you know, start your contact list, and then send an email with those, one of those forms and an introductory letter. And I would say use social media, but discreetly. I would not put down what your price is for your event, for your table. Let's say that it's $500 a year or $1,000 a year. I wouldn't put the price on social media, but I would put something like, hey, would you be interested in attending our, you know, having a table at our coming event, sweeten the deal, just to get attention, because those reps are going to be looking at social media, and that is going to be one of the ways that they're going to be able to find out about this. Use your newsletter. Your newsletter is so incredibly valuable to be able to get information. And I think that we talked about this the last time. I'm not sure if you were all on, but if you, and I'm sure Donna has told you this, but if you need to get your contacts, you can get your contacts from ABO NCLE for the ABO and NCLE certified opticians within your state. They're very generous about doing that. And that begins your contact list. Use your directors. So all the people who are in your board, many of them are already in a shop, an optical shop. They deal with vendors. They have relationships with people. You know, somebody might have a great relationship with Etnia Barcelona. Somebody might absolutely love Cephalo. Somebody might love Derigo Rem. They have relationship with those people. Use them to be able to get those reps to come in and at least sit through the conversation. And I think it's a good idea to even, you know, discuss how would the conversation go? You know, how do you approach somebody? Because you are selling something. Again, you're selling access to opticians. And if you don't hear back right away, if they say, okay, you know, I'll think about it, what do you do then? You know, I think most of us have worked in a shop where we have to find a way to close a sale. And this is really no different. Yeah. So you need to go back to the person and say, hey, you know, have you made a decision? They said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Try one more time. And, you know, target your sales time. So I would say, you know, maybe if depending upon when your events are, if you have one event a year and it's in September, then maybe start in July, start trying to get people in a couple of months before that. If it's later on, if you do two, then let's say that you do them in September and May, then maybe after a successful one is when you want to go back to figure out what your year is going to be. And people are going to come in all different times. And you can decide one person, maybe your corporate partnership is calendar year, and maybe it is, their whenever they signed up, they do it for a year. And that you have to figure out what is going to be best for your state association and best for your vendors. And that this is all obviously a lot of work, but I would highly recommend that you consider a partnership committee. If you've got people on your board, even if it's just two people, you can put together and just say, I want you all to concentrate on our partners. And, partners need a lot of love. Even once you have them, you want to make sure that you don't ignore them, that you're always talking to them. You're always making sure, how did this event work for you? Were you happy with it? That's why they're going to keep coming back. Even if it doesn't work out, even if they didn't get a lot of appointments and so forth, if they feel as though they're getting the attention from your state association, then they're probably going to come back. So another thing that we do in Massachusetts is we have a specific meeting of corporate partners the day of the event. So maybe during a class, we have one of our directors go and have everybody go in a room and just say, all right, how are you all doing? Are you happy with the tables? Did you like how it's situated? Is there anything you need? You needed electric, you needed to plug something in, you didn't have that. Okay, let's make sure that we get that next time. And that's when you start a list so that you can just make sure it gets better and better and better every time. Show them as much love as you possibly can. But I call it the care and feeding of your partners. But I think that the partnerships, there isn't any reason why it shouldn't be successful. It just is going to take, it's just going to take work. But I think that if you have a structured partnership that looks attractive, if you really concentrate on doing things that are creative and different and constantly reassessing, constantly checking with them and making sure, did this work? This not? Okay, let's throw that out. Let's try something else. I think that you'll have very successful partnerships. And that way, we're not completely relying on just membership money to run our state associations. When we have corporate partners, it really can make a difference on our treasury and what we're able to do within our state association. All right, can you share the vendor benefits? Yes. I think what I'm going to do, Daniel, is I'm going to see if I can just get make you guys a template, if that works. And then you can just take it and put your stuff in. But or maybe what I'll do, let me play around with it. I just want to make sure that I'm able to share it. I'm sure I am, but then I'll just double check and maybe just take the names off of it. But it's always good to see what other people do, what other people offer. So last question, how do you decide your price for your corporate partners for the year? All over the place? Anybody more than $500 a year? No.
Most of the people on are just starting. Dibby, any ideas of what other people are doing would definitely help these people tremendously, this group.
So we just raised ours to $750 in Massachusetts, but that's a lot. So for $500 now, we have two state association meetings that have probably 200 people at each one. So they're getting a lot of exposure. So they get the two events for $500 where they were in the past, two events, listing in a newsletter, some special thing for them during the the continuing education event. So my thoughts would be, don't go too high. Sometimes people feel like, oh, we'll just charge $1,000, because again, they don't have a clear understanding of where that money's coming from. And, you know, if it's coming from the reps, it's harder if they have to decide between what their partnerships are going to be. And you only got, 40 people coming to your event, then they may not choose that if it's too high. So you make it reasonable. And, you're going to be working with your membership. You're going to be working with gaining money from membership, gaining money for corporate partners. Corporate partners shouldn't be the 100% of your money, but it should just be a portion of it. So I think of it that way. And I'm not sure tiered works with this. Is anybody, Wes, do you guys do tiered? Is he still here? He's not. Oh yeah, he is.
No, basically all we've been doing is like having, table sponsorship. I'm kind of here listening to what you guys are talking about, and maybe thinking we ought to start doing stuff like that in the future. But right now it's just
tables. Yeah. And what do you charge?
300 for a day, 500 for 2 days.
Okay, so you charge per event.
Right.
Okay, rather than an annual partnership. Okay. interesting.
Exactly. So if you come for like, 2 events for 2 days each, you're paying about $1,000.
Wow. And how many do you get?
As many as we can take. I mean, there's always more people wanting to come than we've got room for.
Okay, that's good to know. But you guys have a ton of people. Tell everybody how many people you have coming to your events.
Well, it's kind of limited lately. We're typically doing maybe 150, 170 when you count apprentices and
Okay.
stuff like that.
But in the past, it's
We
been
used to
upwards-
have,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Wasn't it upwards of 300 and something?
So we split our meetings in two because of COVID. I don't know how much longer we're going to continue to do that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we used to have we'd have a big meeting, pack them in like sardines, and you get like 300 people in there, and typically get about 200 people in the room out at Myrtle Beach when we would go there.
So that's a
But
big draw. That amount of people is a big draw. So I can see
sure
why.
it is.
Yeah, that could work to draw people in, and that way, the people would be willing to pay that amount. But if your state association's small, I'd say start small. Start not too much money. Maybe try an annual and see. And for those of you who are starting, do you have any corporate partners yet? Daniel, I'll pick on you. Do you have any corporate partners yet?
No, we're thinking about changing our style. We're just an event thing as well. We're still coming out of the long tradition of our association has been just the annual convention, just putting that on. And luckily we have enough good response from our vendors. We've never had a problem filling our vendors. We got this last convention, we just had our convention less than 2 weeks ago. We had 80 attendees. We had 20 vendors.
Wow.
And vendors are $450 a booth for 2 hours.
That's
on one day, and we hadn't had a problem filling that. So that's pretty awesome. So I think based upon what we're talking about here, it sounds like we have a pretty good tight-knit organization that people are willing to support. And most of our vendors, thankfully, I mean, at least half of them who have been there kind of routinely, they know it's not a buying event. They know they're not going to make money on it, but they want to be part of the community, support the organization, and be visible and just be part of the group. So that's pretty awesome.
There's a thing when somebody's like, oh yeah, who do you sell again? Oh yeah, I needed to call you. And I mean, that's valuable.
Yeah. But we really are contemplating something that I'm really going to try to work on now is sponsorships. So an annual sponsorship outside of convention, but then also multi-year partnerships. Try to pin out, especially the big corporation guys like SLRs and stuff like that. I mean, why are we going after you guys every single year? It's a pain for the rep. It's a pain for us. We're all working, trying to get us. Let's iron out a 3-year or a 5-year gentleman's agreement that you guys are going to provide this every single year, like clockwork, automatically. And then that's a lot of work off the table. Right, we can iron that down. So if I have any success with that, I'll be happy to report back and see how that went.
Wendy.
Yes, what are some options that are more geared towards, maybe we have a lot of chain stores, and I come from the chain stores. I'm not currently there, but that's where most of my experience was. And our chain opticians, they have no buying power. The only thing we can do is tell the customer, hey, I know more about this lens. I know more about this frame, and get the customer to buy them. That's where we are.
Well, one of the things that you and you were I'm sorry, I can't remember where you're from.
Indiana,
non-licensed. Well, one of the things that you do have the power over is being able to introduce get them quality candidates. So is there any kind of a deficit for to be able to find qualified opticians in Indiana? Are they struggling to find that?
It's more of a struggle of finding, to get the ABO and CLE test taken. A lot of the chain stores will actually pay for that first test. Of course, if you don't pass it, you have to do the second one on your own if you don't pass that first one. Okay. But a lot of the chain, like even Walmart, will pay for that first test.
All right. So I would heavily market ABO reviews.
Absolutely. That's basically where we're going with Indiana, is to do reviews. And not only that, Wendy, one of the things that that you can do, and everybody can do if you need help filling your table space, is contact the corporate partners. They're looking for opticians, and they can rent a booth for recruiting purposes. So that's something every state can utilize, because they're looking for quality opticians that will fill their positions. I used to always have 1 or 2 different ones at my conventions, and they loved it because then they could recruit, and it was wonderful. So there are opportunities. And don't worry, Wendy, in Indiana, we got it coming on for your ABO reviews.
Bernard, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say exactly what Donna was talking about. Just because with our state events, we utilize corporate partners because they're always willing to recruit as many opticians as they possibly can. So that's always been our go-to, because a lot of the practices are not privately owned by opticians.
Yeah.
And that does become a struggle when it comes to buying, but it's kind of hard to compete against Vision Expo East and West, though.
Yeah. And Lewis.
Couple follow-up questions. With the sponsorships, the corporate sponsorships, the SLRs and SLX and so on, does that sponsorship give them an automatic table? I mean, I suppose it's up to the state organization, but is that kind of the idea? Like, let's just support us, but you do a bigger buy-in, you're automatically in, and then we give you all these extras on the newsletter and the website and that sort of thing?
That's how we do it in Massachusetts. Go ahead, Leonard.
In Georgia, we normally give them a table, and we give them the option to sponsor each meeting. So as opposed to doing just one yearly sponsorship, we give them the opportunity to choose which meeting they want to sponsor, and we always give them a table.
So it seems, I mean, like, so that's kind of the impression that I got initially, but it sounds like, like if you're asking, let's say $1,000 for an annual sponsorship from Midland Optical or Cherry Optical, would that would that annual sponsorship give them like placement in the newsletter and then the table? Or I mean, like I'm just kind of working out in my mind how that kind of thing, how that would sound or
that's
how that would
completely
work.
up to you.
Yeah.
That's completely up to you. If you can
Right
see
on.
more
And
value as
then
far as adding them to your newsletter, I would add more value to it. I know at one particular time I asked for $1,000 for our organization, but the company was willing to give 1,500. So,
fair enough.
so sometimes it's better to go ahead and add value to, if you're going to add a table and social media and newsletter, go ahead and add that to your asks as well, because you want all of that covered, and companies are willing to pay for that.
Mhm.
Right. And so another point I want to follow up, you said like, it's there aren't a lot of independent opticians where you're at, but we build a strong organization, maybe there'll be more opticians brave enough to strike out on their own over time, right? So, big picture, we can get there, right?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, that's part of building the profession in the state is you have a strong state association. People start feeling like, someone's got their back. They're not alone. Every time you have a meeting, people meet, with each other. Hey, I remembered you last time, and we learn from each other. We get a louder voice. We get a louder voice legislatively. The profession gets stronger. So, and more people, when a profession gets stronger, more people want to be in it. That's how it works. So absolutely. Well, I will make sure that I get these forms to Donna, and Donna, you will send those out to, awesome. Probably take me about a week if that's okay. But it just gives you something. Yeah, it just gives you something that to play around with, take off what you don't like, keep what you like, and so forth. But I think that they'll help you to have just a little more structure, make it look just a little bit more sophisticated. The more sophisticated it looks, doesn't have to be necessarily, but more sophisticated it looks, the more serious that they will take you.
I'd like to invite everybody, all the new state associations. We do have a meet and greet. You're going to get to meet the faces of the Opticians Association of America on Monday night. And I have sent out invitations, and hopefully you guys have received it. If not, please contact me. If you're in a new state association, we definitely want to make sure that you are in that group. Daniel, you guys are relatively new. Please join us and get acquainted with the OAA. Crystal, you guys have also received it. Wendy, I've sent it to you. I think I've pretty much got it out to everybody. I just want to remind you. Then on the 18th, we have another meeting, which is how to do professional minutes to your meetings for your new state associations. So, and Blair Wong will be happy to be presenting that. So encourage you to watch your emails if you haven't received it already. A reminder will be going out so that we want all of our new state associations to be very well equipped to do everything they need to do in starting your state associations or building the ones that you already have. So, Dibby, thank you very much for coming tonight, and I appreciate you very much. I appreciate everybody that has